cube out on his chest right down the middle. Go and split mask points, and we will turn off perspective. We'll shrink this down, and I suppose a mag pouch, you know, it holds a magazine for an M4, so it'd be, I don't know, about that size, and I can dial it in. Like if it's a uniform scale, it's not that big a deal. So we'll say it's about this size here. And just while we're working on it, I am going to shoot this down here and temporarily, like if this was going to be an actual asset that's going to be duplicated everywhere, I probably would put it at the world origin and just kind of work on it from here. And then we'll just do a quick project blur, Dynamesh it a little higher than that. There we go. So this will be our mag pouch, a little thin. And it usually carries 2 magazines, one in front of the other here. And then, do I have better reference? Hold on. I probably don't. Oh yeah, I do actually. Oh, okay, give me a second. Stream that reference. We're going to add equipment, not packs, pouches. M4 mag pouch. Yeah, I don't need this one, 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 this one. That'll work. Okay, sorry guys. This will help me immensely. They're not complicated, but you know, if you're going to bother doing it, you might as well do it right the first time and not have to make something and then go back and be like, oh, now that I actually look at it, that's completely wrong. That's the worst. Okay. And one more. And I'm going to be in ZBrush, so I don't need to see OBS. Yes, grinning robots is where it's at. So we've got this pouch here, and I'm just going to kind of dial in where our shapes need to go. So I'm going to say, okay, this is where it folds over here, and then it goes down about yay far here, and then it has a little tag that sticks out, and then this kind of folds up here and kind of up and around. And then it comes back down here, and then it does another fold here. And then along the back, there's going to be, if we mask, you know what, let's clip this. Dynamesh, we're going to Dynamesh a little more resolution. And then I'm going to take this, and we're going to pop this back, and then we're going to take, I guess it's actually further down. We're going to go here to here. Then we're going to pop this out, and then we're going to move this down a little bit. There we go. So it has this little back plate, not a back plate, it's cloth, but little thing that can be sewn onto the molly, I suppose. And then back here, you do have 2 straps, so it'd be something like this. Here, here, and then on the back of here you'll have 2 buttons. And I mean, if you're never going to see it, don't bother making it, obviously, but just for our purposes it's there. And then this thing folds down and around, and I'm going to go into H, and for all of my brushes while I'm working on this thing, I want to make sure I go into auto masking. We're going to do backface for clay, standard, trim, H polish, clay buildup, and that should be it. So we'll do H polish here, and now when I H polish from this side, it's not going to suck it through the back and make it a thin web. Cool, cool. You have a good night. I will see you hopefully next week. I'm trying to I might be changing around my schedule. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So this little flap here. And then I guess we can mask this and kind of pull this out just a tad, because that kind of overhangs here. And again, we're just kind of dictating and kind of seeing where the stuff goes when we rebuild it. We don't have to answer any questions. We just got to rebuild it. And then on the side here, about yay high, you're going to have a cut, and then all of this through here is going to be gone. So I'm just really quickly, I guess we can go ahead and do it. I guess we don't have to, since we're just going to be really building this thing anyway. I'm just going to temporarily do a mask pin. We'll mask this, and then we'll pull this in. Actually, not even that far. Pull this into here, and then we'll go D, and we'll do a slice, and this will be our little magazines in there. What else we got? The detail and stuff I'm not going to worry about, where the stitches go. This can sometimes be pulled up, or it can be down, and then on the sides here, it's actually going to get a little elastic band, it looks like. And the elastic band comes back, and then it kind of flips out and attaches to this thing here to kind of indicate that. And that looks like it's actually a little bit too high, because this thing here has to have some room, which means this needs to come down, which means this thing needs to come down. So I'm going to pull in some reference really quick. And we'll see, make sure this stuff all matches up. And again, that's just using Spotlight here. Then on the corners here, they'll again fold underneath, and then they'll soften, and then they'll get kind of dug up here. And they're like little folds. And then this will kind of be a folded, little foldy area. Jeez. Something a little bit weird here. There we go. So this is the basic mass out here. So now we need to start box modeling this thing, and it actually looks a little bit fat. Perfect. So if we want to, we can kind of double check our math here. We'll go to texture, import, and really quickly, hold on, I'm just going to copy this path here. Whoops. And what's a good one we can kind of snap to? So bring this one in, and we'll kind of turn down the opacity here. Turn on perspective maybe. So yeah, it's a little bit fat. I'm going to hit X. We're going to scale this down, and we're going to push it in. And this looks like this one kind of tense in the middle, which I guess we can put that in. And then this is pretty accurate. I'm going to turn on Move Acu and just pull these things out to corners here. This looks like it needs to come in a bit. That's pretty decent. So now that I've done that, I'm going to turn my floor back on because we got rid of symmetry here. I'm going to do a quick mirror and weld. And now turn perspective off, floor off. I can go in here and build in that tinting a little bit. Oops, make sure you have X on. And now I just need to rebuild this thing. Everybody good? It really is. And you would be surprised how easily those 2D Photoshop skills translate into 3D. Most of this thing right here was literally like taking a piece of paper and just kind of drawing on like, where do I want stuff to go? And if it's not enough resolution on your paper, divide it up, and then you can just kind of go in here and kind of, you're just drawing, and then you're going in here with like a fatter brush, and you're just kind of softly, you know, taking these drawings and just manipulating them in 3D. So I promise if you're a 2D artist and you're doing, and you want to do 3D stuff, it's just a matter of learning the brushes, learning a few little tools and techniques, and you're off to the races. And I've heard that a really good video series on ZBrush, it's called Intro to ZBrush Part 1, a guy named Michael Pavlovich does it. You should Google it. It's really, I've heard a lot of good things about it. I don't know the guy. He's probably really nice. but you can check that out if you're interested in like learning ZBrush and stuff. And it's free. It's on YouTube. You can download it on Gumroad. And it should be pretty linear. Like, you would be surprised how quickly you'll be able to get in there and just like make a little piece of clay and then turn it into something. I'm still amazed. Like like I was talking earlier, when I was teaching my students, like they do great stuff day one. I'm always like, geez, you guys don't even know. I was doing great stuff like year 3. Kind of feels bad, man. But anyway, so we have this as our reference here. So I'm going to go ahead and and if you want to use this as just a placeholder, just like really quickly, just go brush, create insert mesh, new, go back to our dude here. And actually, now that I have LSIM turned off, let me do a quick mirror weld. There we go. So we can go back to our guy here, and we can just go, you know what, let's see. We want mag pouches here. And we'll kind of rotate these around. They still look a little bit fat to me. I'm going to trim those down here. And then if you wanted to drag out, we can, you know, I got a little close in the middle. I wonder if there's going to be too little. Yeah, you bastards. Okay, you know what we can do? Really quickly, just pull them apart a little bit. Go in here to select rect. Hold down Alt. Delete hidden. Re-dynamesh these things. Make sure they're not touching. And now we can just do Control Shift. Rotate these around here. Now you can just take a step back and go, yeah, that's about right, or no, that's not what I want at all. I want them down here. No big deal. Now we can try and rotate these all around. Maybe squeeze them in a little bit. You know, and now you've got a little more information. Put some on the back, put some on the front, doesn't really matter. So we've got our, oh man, when I turn on LSIM, it did a number to this thing. Oh, you know what? We had all these together. No biggie. Oh, and you also have this undo slider. So if your lag pav was being stupid, just go here and then delete hidden just in case. And then we're back where we started. So let's rebuild this thing. First easiest thing to rebuild is just this back piece here. For this one, I'm going to actually duplicate this off. And for this duplicate, I'm going to go down here to initialize. I'm just going to make a Q cube. Go into transparency mode. And I'm just going to show the cube and our new thing here. Turn off perspective. I know it's kind of weird to say turn off perspective, but man, when you're modeling and doing, I'm just going to do a quick mirror and weld, and doing stuff where you need to have the transposed line shooting off a surface normal correctly, do not bother with perspective. So we've got this little back plate here. I'll go ahead and put that in. Now these back plates, interestingly enough, are actually 2 little pieces of folded cloth. So it'll be like this, and then it'll be like this. And then if I can see, they both come together like 2 snakes on the shield. I can't get good reference of that. Okay, well, we'll skip that for now. Just know that when we get to the detailing part on that thing, it'll be probably two things here. Now these little straps look like so here's the little back plate here. These 2 straps here, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this back plate off here. And I'm going to go out of X mode. We're going to trim this one down here. Go to transparency. And this will be the beginning of our strap here. Now the strap goes up and over and loops around underneath this thing. So if I just show these 2 things, I'm going to move this, Control Shift drag this in. Go to transparency mode, and then unhide. So now we've got these 2 pieces here. Now I don't know if it loops all the way down. Doesn't really matter, but if we just want to loop it over a little bit, we can just drag that up. And oh, I forgot when I started with the Q cube, it gave me some extra geo. So just hover over here. Actually, go to your geometry, edge loop, delete loops, and sometimes that'll delete extraneous loops. Not this time though. So what we're going to do is have to hover over an edge, insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, and we can just get rid of this extraneous stuff here. No biggie. Okay, so we want this thing to loop over to this thing. So what I'm going to do is hover over this face. We're going to go to delete single poly, bing, bang, and we're going to temporarily turn on double, and we're going to hit this edge, bridge 2 holes, 1, 2. And we're just going to bridge those things over there. So now this thing loops, and of course we bring back our reference, sculpt. We can go, this thing needs to be mirror and welded on this side. So now we got the back plate going. So now we need the front part. What that's going to be is a piece of cloth that looks like it folds over this way, and then it kind of stops back in here somewhere. So what we can do, and it's shorter inside than this back plate here. So I'm just going to duplicate this back plate here. We're starting from this back plate quite a bit. I'm going to move it forward, and then I'm just going to shrink it down a bit. And so then this thing, if I go into transparency mode, this thing needs to kind of loop here and then come back down around and then end up here. We can do the same thing. We can just move this forward and kind of bridge this thing, or we can kind of make this shape as a polygon. So let's go ahead. Did I do something weird? Solo mode. I took this back plate, but it looks like I did a control shift because I'm dumb. So we're going to do a quick hide point, invert, delete hidden, and I'm also going to simplify this thing. So you know what? While I'm thinking about it, I should have had a simplified back plate to start with. If I'm going to be pulling from this thing a lot, I want to go in and go ahead and do insert single edge loop. And because our fancy delete loops isn't working, I just want to start with simple as possible. I don't need complexity right now in my life. So I'm going to take this one here, and while I'm thinking about it, go ahead and simplify these things down. And then I can just take these 2 front points here. We can go Q mesh a single poly, and then we can just kind of move these forward here. And so this thing has to kind of come up and around. So we can take these 2, and we can Q mesh a single poly here. If it's not going through, turn on ghost, and that way it'll come up. And then we can, instead of Q meshing, we can hold down shift and just move it along the surface normal. Or because we're going to tint this thing, we can just add an extra edge loop, and then we can just kind of shrink these things down here. So we can kind of get that curvature in, and this little corner probably needs to be not quite as harsh, and then this one can bend maybe a little bit more like so. I don't know. We can actually, looks like this needs to come out a little bit more like this. And then we can go ahead and do a quick insert single edge loop, and we'll just cut where that thing needs to go. So we've got, you know, and the cloth can go from here and just loop around. So really all we need from this thing here is, actually we don't even need this. I'm just going to Q mesh this poly in. Or I guess we can just delete that. And now we can go out of X mode here and delete this temporarily. Sorry, bear with me. We're going to bridge edges, 1, 2, and then do I have levels on? They should all be mirrored too. Yeah, these are mirrored. Sorry about that. This shouldn't be that big a deal. Okay, let's undo that. We'll do a quick mirror and weld. We'll turn on double temporarily, and then we'll just bridge. Make sure you have X turned on. There we go. Control W. And then again, we'll just quickly insert single edge loop. And now the only polygons we really need are this one. We're just Alt dragging over these, and then we'll just do Control Shift to isolate just that polygroup here. We'll delete hidden, we'll hit Control W just to go ahead and make that. And now we can just do a Q mesh polygroup all. And now we got our basic flap going. And then for this basic shape in here, we can just pull from our trusty backplate. Now I'm going to make sure this one is mirrored and simplified. It is. So we're going to move this forward here. And this will be sitting in front of that flap. And we'll go ahead and just scale this down. And you're going to see that, like, even though I'm making a cloth pouch, it's 99% box modeling, and then like 5% at the very end, moving the stuff around. So we can just kind of make this box shape here, and it could be hollow eventually, which it definitely will be. If we want to, we can go ahead and insert a single edge loop down here, unmask first, so it goes all the way around, and then just drag this on back. How we doing? Why do you need folds in modeling game characters? The engine has cloth sim. Well, cloth sims are pretty expensive. It's very CPU intensive to have joints that move, also driving simulations of things that are bending and moving and fluttering. So what you can usually do is, one cool thing you can do is you can have a shirt and it has a normal map on it has wrinkles just in an A-frame or A-pose. And then as you bend your arm, you're going to get different wrinkles. If you want to do it the super cheap way, you paint weights and the shirt's going to bend, and those wrinkles just kind of bend. So you want very general wrinkles. Another thing you can do is as your shirt moves, you can bake in normal maps that are connected to joint rotation. So as your joints rotate a certain way, a blend shape will fade in on that cloth. But that's texture intensive. So you got to kind of juggle those. We're getting to the point, and I haven't done any research on this stuff in a while, but we might be getting to the point where we're close to maybe that kind of stuff, and where we can actually do just cloth sims. But even then, even if we did have a cloth sim here, sorry, let me log back in. You know, in order to get like the crazy wrinkles we got on that dress, you would need a lot of vertices, and to get like even the wrinkles like here in my shoulder, you can't even see that. Like the number of verts you would need to just get this much information here is quite a bit. So that's where it kind of like, well, bake it down to simpler geometry or just ways to fake it. And that's when the real-time solutions kick in, where it's like, how do we make it look like that? But in reality, it's a bunch of tricks that bamboozle your eyeballs. Yeah, we did cloth sim on DCUO, which was just basically you had a square and then you attached points and then it flopped. And that was about all we could afford because, you know, it was on the PS3, an Unreal Engine on an MMO, so you had to pick and choose your battles, but it looked clothy. Yeah, and I mean, we might get there, you know. Like I said, if we ever get to the point where we're just cloud computing is the norm and server-side rendering, and I'm actually thinking about doing this at my house. Like, how cool would it be to have a central computer, so like a server basically, and then all you need to do is just set up a monitor somewhere, like, or monitors wherever you want, and your wife can use a computer, you can use a computer, you all go to the same shared resource, and it's not just shared files, but it's shared computing power. All the programs are on there. That really interests me for some reason. I'm not much of a hardware guy, so it'll probably never happen, but I don't know, I can dream. But anyway, as far as like server-side rendering, what you can do is basically companies will have, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but companies can have massive amounts of processing power, raw processing power, CPU, GPUs, just stacks and stacks of them. And then they put the game on there, and if you want to play the game, you log into their big supercomputer, and all the information it needs is where your location is in the game and whatever you're pinging back and forth, and then it just streams the video of you playing the game. Now, of course, you need super fast internet for latency reasons, but it's doable. They have it working already, and companies will probably love it because they get to completely lock down the game. At that point, you're truly just renting the game. There's nothing physical about that. You're basically logging in and playing a TV show, give or take. Anyway, so this thing wraps around, and it kind of goes around this way, and then it has a fold in here, and then this thing kind of folds back out. I'm just going to sculpt that fold in, I believe. I think that'll be easiest, but what I am going to do is go ahead and I'm going to pull these out just a bit, because that is going to fold around and then back and then plug onto that back plate there. So we've got this going, and before I get too far into the elastics and that stuff, I am going to detail this up just a little bit. Let me get this OBS out of the way. And oh, we got one more loop here. So for this one, I'm just going to do a quick insert. We'll just throw it on here. And we'll do a quick split. Mass points. And we'll move this down. And I keep forgetting. For some reason, I have my Z intensity set at 15 on that brush. I need to set up to 100. That's why everything's coming in really thin. But in this case, it actually works in my favor because this is basically a loop that loops around underneath this cloth. So I'm going to put it here. And then again, we're just going to duplicate this thing out. And these are probably pretty thick. So I'm actually going to thin this out here. Are those doubled up? No, those are single. So it'll be a single side cloth here. And then on this side, it'll be single. And then in between them, again, we're just do a trusty. Let's do a quick mirror and weld. And then we'll just do a quick delete. Single poly. Boom, boom. And then make sure we have double turned on. So I want to make sure we have nothing's flipped. We're good. So we can go ahead and bridge 2 holes. 1, 2. We'll kind of loop that around here. So now we've got a cute little loop. And now if we hide this, we can kind of start seeing a little bit better what's going on. There we go. So we got this thing kind of blocked out. Where's our back plate? Did I lose it? That's all right. That's probably the easiest thing to get back. So we'll take this thing here. So what happens when I forget to duplicate off? We're going to do a split mass points, and then we'll just shrink this back down, and this back plate, keep calling it back plate, just a piece of cloth plate, and then that goes in here. I wish I had better reference. Things always go faster when you have good reference, I swear. That's like 99% of the battle. And then this kind of sticks out here, and then everything's sewn to that. So now at this point, I need to make sure, so like this thing loops around, but it doesn't have that much power to kind of force everything forward. So I'm actually going to take this. I'm going to truncate this a bit. So I'm going to go in here to this one. We're going to Q-mesh a single poly and just kind of hold down Shift. I said Q-mesh a single poly. Make sure X is on, and then hold down Shift. We're just going to kind of pull that up. And then this thing can come all the way back here. And now we're moving around a bunch of split pieces. I'm going to do a quick save. And just pull this back here. Yeah, it's a matter of time. Yeah, that's the thing though, is like what would the hobbyist and the consumer market be? You know, you wouldn't need consoles anymore for sure. You would just stream games off their server. But then it's like, well, if the servers go down, I hope you like reading books because they ain't got much else for you, right? You know, there's a give and take, I suppose. Let's go ahead and do an inside mesh for this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and do just a quick inset. Well, it might be easier just to do thickness. Let's go ahead and mark these ones for delete. And you know what? We're going to, you know what? I messed up. Not a big deal. So we're going to delete these, and we're just going to delete. Actually, let's not delete them. Let's do something easier. We're going to Q-mesh a single poly, align full step, and we're just going to snap these through. There we go. We'll temporarily turn on double. All right, so we'll get rid of those temporarily. Now if I want to straighten these out, I can just mask them and then transpose them all to a straight line real quick. And now we can do Q-mesh, not polygroup all polygons, push this in. That'll give us thickness all the way around for our little cubby. And now we can go back here and insert a single edge loop, or we can go here, mark these, and then just pull Q-mesh, polygroup all, and pull these out once. That'll do something weird here. Let's just do our insert all the way around, tag these, pull them out. Now the caveat to this, we're going to see if this will work, is that you want this geometry nice and subdivided so that you can go in and sculpt on it nicely. This may or may not work. We'll see how it goes. We can do it manually. ZRemesher is a nice alternative to that. And then when we start pulling in these corners, we might have some issues, but that's okay. And also, we need our magazines in there. So really quickly, hold on. Just need the mag. Hold on, my battery's running low. Let's make a quick magazine real quick. Do not restart Microsoft. Images. There we go. First one. Save image as. Desktop. Good enough. Alright, make a magazine real quick. Go texture, import, desktop. And I guess I can just go to again, we're going to start out simple, drag out any primitive, doesn't really matter because we're going to make it a polymesh 3D, initialize QCube, go into X symmetry here, and we'll just push these things together, and we'll pull this thing out, snap to the side, and then we'll bring our reference back, and we can kind of pull it we'll keep it straight for the top thing here. And then through here we'll go ahead and just bevel this. Actually, you know what we can do? This will be funner. So what we're going to do is we're going to shrink this thing down. And we're going to leave this alone. And we're going to Control-Shift drag this one out. And we're going to rotate this back. Like so. And we're going to shrink this down too. So I'm going to combine both of these together. I'm going to give it a little bit of leeway here so that when we bridge these things, it'll give it a little bit of room. So we're going to Q-mesh. I guess we'll just delete these things here. We'll go to delete, single poly, and then we'll go ahead and just do a quick bridge. 2 holes, bing, bang. Good enough. Now, when I go to the side here, I think I'm not going to bring any reference, I'll just eyeball it from the side. Now I could actually model a bullet and then stagger them in there, and that would give me the exact width, but we're not there yet. So this is good enough. I'm going to do a quick, go back to our thing here, subtool. We'll do an insert thing here. We'll just size this thing down. And basically, they go up or down. I guess it doesn't really matter. So we're going to rotate this around. We're going to go to X mode here. Hit Control W, just make it all one polygroup just for fun. And then go into transparency mode. And looking at the reference, these things are about that thick. So a little bit closer. Like so. So now this thing needs to come way back. Or, let's bring our reference back. This thing needs to come way forward. Those will fit in there nicely. Ish. Something like that. Pretty good. And then we got our loop here. We will just pull this back just a tad. We'll stick this underneath here. Something like that. Now these we can hide temporarily. Okay, the basics are all done. Now it's just a matter of detailing this thing out. And then we're going to add the elastic strap. There's a little piece of Velcro back here, which you kind of don't see, but we can add it anyways. It's interesting. It'll show up in some views. Oh, and one big thing. Insert. Single edge loop. And these things need to come up. All right. And then after we start sculpting, we'll also put a little edge thing in here. So now the trick is, this thing is actually double-sided here. So now I have to decide if I want to sculpt first and then add another layer. Or I want to put them together now. I forget. Oops. And actually these things don't need to be in the back. So I'm just going to go ahead and level these out here with transpose. Okay, so now I can go in here, Q mesh, polygroup all. I can hold down shift and just push along the normal. Then if I want to add another layer in here, I can start pulling this out. I can hold down control and pop out a new one, and then we can Q mesh polygroup island, and then just pop out another layer of thickness here. And now if I want to, I can do a quick auto groups, isolate this one, mask it, and actually let's isolate this one, and we probably don't want to auto groups just yet. Before we auto groups, just grab a little piece of this one, Control Shift A, and then in here you can do your whole Q mesh polygroup island, and then just kind of push that out just a little bit. Push those together. Now when we start subdividing this thing, you'll get the separation in there, so not a huge deal. So you've got those two pieces here, and then this thing is kind of the same way, and then this thing here. So let's figure out the fastest way to go ahead and just get nice, even subdivisions through these things. So with this thing here, I can possibly do a geometry. Oh, everything's open. ZRemesh double, adaptive size down to 0, and that doesn't want to play nice. So in that case, what I'm going to do is go to Insert, Single Edge Loop, no, Multiple Edge Loops. There we go. And now you can, if you want your polygroups back, just go into your group by normals, then you're good to go. And at least it's nice and subdivided here. And I want to say these things are doubled up too, but I can't find reference to verify that, really. So I'll leave it alone for now, and then this will just loop over. So actually I think it is. So executive decision here. I'm going to double these things up, and they'll just be kind of sewn together. So now you got to decide, as you're subdividing these things, there's one way you can go, which is geometry. You can turn off smooth modifier, divide, divide, turn it back on, divide, and then it'll just give you kind of a rounded thing and kind of subdivide in here. And then as you start sculpting, it'll kind of sculpt through both of those, and you can also drop it down in your subdivision levels. You can kind of just do general, kind of wrinkly stuff here. Make sure you don't have any weird masking on. Another thing you need to think about is if we go down to subdivision level 1, delete higher, you can also build in a little bit of detail around the edges and kind of push these things out. So if you want to, you can go to Insert Single Edge Loop with a Z intensity up. And what is it doing? Insert Single Edge Loop. Quick save. Shouldn't be that intense, unless there's something weird going on with my scale. Insert Single Edge Loop, Z intensity of 1. Yeah, it's doing something weird. Okay. Initialize ZBrush. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, if you're doing like really specific like CAD type work where you're in millimeters and inches or whatever you're working in, and everything has to like be snapped and all that stuff, ZBrush is a little bit more willy-nilly about that sometimes. I mean, it's very accurate, but it's not really set up in a way to really just, because a lot of programs like Fusion 360 I use, everything is built around super accuracy and super snapping to everything. Let's load that scene back up. It seemed like it was having a little bit of problems. I might need to kill ZBrush and bring it back up. Actually, how are we doing on time? I got 15 minutes left. Let's see if we can power through this. I might just skip this part then. You should be able to insert a single edge loop with a little bit of intensity here. There we go. I don't know what it was doing. So just add a little intensity here and you can kind of bubble these things out. And, you know, you can kind of add a little, like just look at your reference and see if there is a little bit of, you know, bubbling happening along, you know, these inside edges here you can kind of play with. And that'll kind of, I mean, it's going to destabilize your sculpting surface, but it's also kind of nice to kind of build some of that stuff in maybe. Your mileage may vary. There you go. So when you start subdividing that up, it'll kind of bulge out like that. Where else we have? Now this thing, like I said, I would love to just use ZRemesh, but it may not. Let's do target polygon count of like 1K, and then we'll do adaptive size down to 0 and hit ZRemesher. Oh, you know what? Also, we don't have smooth groups on. We can say keep groups, don't smooth groups. Okay, that works. Yeah, okay, do that. Ooh, it almost works. So target polygon count of 1, keep groups, smooth groups. Let's do double instead. Keep groups, adaptive size. No. So we'll do adaptive size 0, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, adaptive size at 0, and target polygon count of 1.1K. Yeah, it just, okay. It just needs the geometry. That works really well. I'm a genius. So do that. So now we'll go back here to, you just got to kind of dial in the right number, it looks like. So we'll grab this one here, and then we already kind of built in thickness. Let's see how well it works on this one. We'll do depth size down to 0, target polygon count of, let's say 2K, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0. Yeah, not so good. Let's simplify it a little bit. We'll grab this one. We'll delete hidden. And I'm going to Q-mesh this out just a little bit. Q-mesh polygroup all. Make that a little bit thicker temporarily. Let's go ahead and do a quick, and this is probably the reason why, since it has bends in it, I need to do a group by normals. Drop that max angle down. Keep dropping that down. There we go. So now if I go over here, keep groups 0, target polygon count of 2. Perfect. That's all it needed. And then I can crank my max angle back up, group by normals, and now I can use Q-mesh polygroup all to just push these things back. What? All right, manual time. Here, here, here. All one polygroup, Control W, and then just push that back. Nice, sculptable mesh. Easy peasy. So, I need better reference, but we're getting there. So now we got these loops back here. Now these loops are doubled up, and these are way too thick anyways. So what we can do is, I think, Q-mesh. Let's do this. Hold down Control Shift, go to select lasso, grab these inside loops here, invert that, Control W, invert that, Control W. Actually, we'll do a quick auto groups, and now we'll do a quick mirror and weld. And what that's going to do is give us an inside group, an outside group, and then this little strip down here. So now all of these things can be pushed, Q-mesh polygroup all. They can be pushed along that surface normal. If you want to save that time, you can actually, you don't have to double it up. You can go to Insert Single Edge Loop, and we'll do is the intensity of 0, and then you can do bevel edge loop complete, and that'll give you a new polygroup in here. And then if it doesn't give you a new polygroup, just go polygroup polyloop, tap Alt a couple times, just grab something new, Q-mesh polygroup all, push this in, grab this one, insert single edge loop, bring that Z intensity up a little bit, and now it kind of looks like they're doubled up when you do the final. Now this is obviously terrible, so at the end of the day you would go and you'd probably want to even in here do Q-mesh polygroup all and just kind of suck these together here. Anyway, we'll grab these ones here and we'll GeForce experience. I don't need you thinking about hotkeys that I do. I will never ever use you. Hold on. Exit. Okay, so sorry everybody. Alt Z. Oh, it never turns off. It never turns off. Okay, that just took over my crease hotkey. Open these things up. Geometry, crease. Just hit crease. Always something, right? Crease. Then hit D, and now it'll keep those nice and creased. And of course, we haven't even started sculpting yet, but we're just kind of blocking in like where the loops are going to go. And you can go in here with the subdivision preview and kind of just start pulling this stuff around. Like so. And actually, messed up. So we did all that fancy work, and we didn't even add real subdivisions here. So I'm going to have to go ahead and insert multiple edge loops and just do it manually up through here. Yeah, it's only going to go there. So we'll do it up through here. We'll kind of even those out. We'll do it here. Give us a nice Tim Burton look. These are fine. And then we'll do a couple through here just to kind of make them squares. Control W. We can always get our normal mouse back by doing normal by angle, but I think we'll be okay. And now that'll give us enough resolution. You can also go through here and inflate. And actually, let's do Shift D. Now that we have this, along these edges here, I'm just going to do a quick insert single edge loop, Z intensity up a bit. Let's kind of pop those out just a tad. I'm actually going to go with a 0 intensity. I wish I could do a negative intensity. So totally pop those in. So now we'll do D. Move this stuff around, and you can actually pinch these in. D. How's everybody doing? Yeah, maybe. What kind of unimaginative stuff? A lot of my, you know, when I am in production mode, I do a lot of, you know, when we get into like, okay, everybody get on LODs or UVs or baking maps. It does get into a lot of, okay, man, I got my headphones on and I'm gonna watch Sopranos again for the 900th time, because that is just brainless work. But I'm in an air-conditioned office. But so we got that going here. We got this thing looping around. If we decide that's a little bit thick still, we can kind of dial that back some, but it's got to have a little leeway, so we'll play it by ear. And when we go to subdivide this thing, that'll kind of soften some of those transitions, not a bunch though. You know what we could do? Let's do a little practice run here. So an alternative to this could be, you could block this in and then just dynamesh it. And then before you get too far, you can go through here and start doing a little bit of sculpting and make it a little bit messier, because you know it's not going to be this nice. I'm still going to keep it subdivided, but then once you have that, you can go through here. You still have your poly groups here, so you can just grab these ones, delete hidden. Let's go ahead and polish those polygroup borders here, and then we can just ZRemesh half, and we can just pull out these corners so they're nice and sharp. And now we can just Q-mesh this polygroup back, kind of back where we started. So always more solutions. You're never stuck with any one thing. All sorts of stuff you can do. That's a little nicer geometry anyway. And then I guess we can go ahead and double this up. Maybe not. Let's sculpt on this a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do a crease tolerance here. And if that doesn't work, you can manually just go in here. I mean, I can keep changing that, but it's easy enough just to go in here and crease edge. And then start subdividing this thing. So as we subdivide, I'm going to start breaking symmetry now, because cloth looks really bad if you have symmetry turned on. So we can just kind of start going through here, start putting some of this stuff in, you know, where it kind of folds around. Sometimes it kind of peaks here, it looks like, and then kind of maybe folds back. Let me make sure I have lazy mouse turned on. These kind of like lazy folds here. And these are just big secondary folds. They're certainly not any semblance of major folds at all. But now that we have that, we can go to subdivision level 1, and then we can, I kind of like that. I'm going to temporarily delete lower. You know what? Let's do something fancy. I don't know if it'll work, but we'll give it a shot. So I've got this one here. I'm going to thin this one out because I do want it to be 2 levels. I mean, I can always go in here and just, yeah, you know what? That's probably faster and cheaper. All right, let's do it this way. So I've subdivided it. I don't want to lose my subdivision levels, but I am going to go in here and just do a quick bevel edge loop complete, and we'll just make it look like this mesh is doubled up. I'm going to thicken it up just a tad. So I'm going to go here, Q mesh, polygroup all. We'll pop this out just a little bit, hold down shift, and then if we want to, we can actually slide. Slide, edge loop complete. We'll slide this around, and then we'll just hover over this. We'll go to bevel, edge loop complete, and that'll give us that new polygroup we were so excited about. Let's do that again. There we go. And then we can just do a quick Q mesh, polygroup all, pull this back in, and then we can do an insert, single edge loop, little bit of Z intensity here. Ooh, is this, so when it does anything like that, go to display properties, turn off double, and you'll find out it's flipped. Gotcha. Pop these things out, and then maybe turn this down a little bit, and we'll kind of give a little ridge here and here. And then just really quickly, we can go in here with Q mesh, polygroup all, hold down shift, really. All right, we can force this. Oh, you know what, we can just use pinch. Let's see how that works. That's actually not too bad. It's called good enough in my book.